Whenever they make a list of the greatest films of all time or have one of these international critics polls, there's always one film at the top of the list, and that's Citizen Kane, made in 1941 by Orson Welles. This has become sort of the official greatest film of all time, and when people ask me what my favorite film is, I usually say Citizen Kane, because that doesn't surprise anyone, and it seems like a reasonable choice. I could easily have put down, for example, The Third Man, or La Dolce Vita, or Notorious, or Singing in the Rain, or 2001, but Citizen Kane is a real good choice because this is one, not only the most famous movies ever made, but certainly one of the most entertaining. This was the first film made by Orson Welles. It was the film in which he was given complete control of all of the tools of filmmaking. This young man from New York who made a name for himself on the stage and on radio and went to Hollywood to conquer the movie industry, and certainly did so with his first film. This is a movie that's told in a whole series of interlocking flashbacks as various people who remember Kane or who knew Kane respond to an inquiring reporter who wants to know the meaning of Kane's final deathbed words.
Find out about Rosebud. Get in touch with everybody that ever knew him. Oh, who knew him well.
As we begin to go back into this man's life, we reconstruct his biography, this lonely little boy who was raised to the best schools in the East, who at the age of 25 inherited a newspaper and decided that he'd like to be a newspaper publisher.
Don't you think it's rather unwise to continue this philanthropic enterprise? This Inquirer that's costing you $1 million a year?
You're right, Mr. Thatcher. I did lose $1 million last year. I expect to lose $1 million this year. I expect to lose $1 million next year. You know, Mr. Thatcher, at the rate of $1 million a year, I'll have to close this place in 60 years.
Why is Citizen Kane considered to be one of the greatest movies of all time? I think there are a lot of reasons, and certainly the basic one is it's a very, very entertaining film. I never get tired of this movie. It's a delight not only to the eye with all of its compositions and its complex visual strategies to reveal this man's life, but also a delight to the ear because of its screenplay by Herman Mankiewicz and Orson Welles that has so many lines that have passed into the language.
I didn't know we were speaking.
Sure we're speaking, Jedediah. You're fired.
It's also a delight to the imagination because it invites us to go into the mystery of a man's life, and by extension into the mystery of everyone's life, even into our own lives. What does it all mean? How do things in childhood still remain important to people 50 or 60 years later? These are basic questions, and Welles got it all together in this film, and he was aided by this wonderful, wonderful cast of actors, the people from the Mercury Players we had worked with on radio in New York City, people like Joseph Cotten and Agnes Moorehead and Everett Sloan and Dorothy Comingore, and of course Orson Welles himself, who not only produced this movie and directed it and co-wrote it, but stood at the center of it as Citizen Kane. And he was only 25 or 26 years old when he made this film, but he's amazingly effective in some of the scenes where he's supposed to be a good deal older. He terrified the crew, we're told, on the day when he tore up Susan Alexander's bedroom, and certainly here every movement of his body indicates that he's a very old man. So this was a great performance by Orson Welles and a movie filled with great performances. The Hollywood legend has it that when Orson Welles first saw a movie studio in Hollywood, he said, "This is the finest electric train set that any boy could ever want." And certainly he was able to have more fun with it than any boy ever had with an electric train. He created Citizen Kane, one of the greatest movies of all time, and it was really my pleasure to present it as part of this series on American Movie Classics. I'm Roger Ebert.
Next on American Movie Classics, Orson Welles, Joseph Cotten, Ruth Warwick, and Agnes Moorehead star in Welles' cinematic masterpiece, Citizen Kane. It's next on American Movie Classics.